morning, everyone. Hope everybody is fine and well. It is a wet and dull morning here in Drogheda in Ireland. It's so I'm a few minutes late. Had to get my extra big mug of coffee this morning from Nashville, Tennessee. So we've had a few weeks off. Had a lovely trip away down to Tipperary in the southern half of Ireland, and it was absolutely fantastic. So it was great to get away and spend some time with the family and not just be working. So it was great. But it's right back at it, and we're straight in today. We've a few interesting ones from our listeners, so I appreciate those questions coming in. But we'll go straight for it. So, first one. My 5-year-old used to be very confident and still can be at times, but recently she seems to have developed severe performance anxiety. She can be a bit of a perfectionist, and I think it's a fear of doing something wrong in front of people, and everyone's seeing her make a mistake. She takes part in some classes and clubs, gymnastics, swimming, and the girls' brigade, and enjoys going to them and participating. However, she flat out refuses to do any competitions, shows, or performances. I don't mind so much with the clubs as long as she was going weekly and taking part in classes, but now she has told me that she isn't going to take part in the school nativity. I didn't expect her to volunteer for a speaking part, but she was refusing to go on stage at all, even to sing in a big group with the rest of her class. She says that it would be too scary to do it with everyone looking at them. I've tried to talk her into it, reminding her that she won't be alone. She'll have her whole class beside her, and her best friend will be there with her. But she just gets really upset and then says she doesn't want to talk about it anymore. I don't really know what to do because, on one hand, I don't want to force her to do something if it upsets her this much, especially if forcing her to do it will just make her worse. But on the other hand, I know that the only way to get over this fear is to do it, and singing in a large group seems like a reasonable compromise to me. I feel like once she does it, she'll realise it's not as scary as she has built it up in her mind. Wow. So there we have a child who has become a lot more aware of herself, and with that has become a lot more conscious of the spotlight being on her, and that's something that is quite normal and natural for children to experience. So what I mean by that is, if you think about it, with a child, you know, they become a toddler and they are the centre of the universe. So as far as they're concerned, the whole world revolves around them. And then they go to school, and all of a sudden, from about 3.5, 4 years of age, they start to recognise that actually there's more stuff going on around the world, and that they're not actually the centre of the universe, and there is other people. And that can be quite unsettling. And this is when we start to take on beliefs about ourselves. And sometimes it's easier to slip into the background than actually step forward. So some people will find their children, you know, you can't stop them performing, while there's others, like this lady, who is finding that her daughter just wants to slink into the background and not have to deal with standing in front of a group. And it's about trying to find that balance. And it's one of the difficult things, because probably years ago what would happen is that this child would be told, you're going, and if you don't go, you're in big trouble. Okay? And they have to then force themselves to get into this situation and deal with it. And maybe in the long run, that might have benefit to her. But I suppose this is clearly a very conscientious parent who wants to try and make this as stress-free as possible for her child, while still recognising that doing it will be a positive thing. So I suppose the first thing to say, there are different people in this world. So some people are extremely introverted, and that's okay. And in school, what we try to do is we try to expose children to different things that they may never have experienced before and want to or don't want to try something different. But when they do try it, they enjoy it a lot more. I know my eldest, she did not want to do science at all because she thought it was going to be boring, and is absolutely loving it in school. So it's one of those things that, you know, we have to expose our kids to these things in order to see how they get on with it. What I will say is that she is essentially kind of got frozen in in herself, and something has kind of obviously made her very self-conscious. And for a lot of us, we don't, or society in general, it's not okay to be vulnerable. And by what I mean by that is that we all talk about vulnerability and saying, yeah, absolutely, you should talk about how you feel. But society as a whole says, don't show weakness. Don't let them know that they've got you. Man up, grow a pair. All these things that essentially say to people, it's not okay to be vulnerable. It's not okay to need help. And what can happen then for children is, because they're only children, they haven't got life experience, they're not like adults, they start to internalize it, and they go, okay, well, I can't even do anything. It's safer to do nothing because I'm not sure how to do it. I'm not sure how I feel about it. And it's absolutely okay to be nervous. It's absolutely okay to be nervous. It's a normal, natural response to any given situation. So what I'd say to you is, try and get her to kind of sit down and have a chat about what it is that she's worried about. Now, she said that she's nervous and it's scary, but try and get into what is it that actually is scaring her. Now, what you might find is that as the class start to practice the nativity, that she actually just gets into it, and it just becomes a normal part of the routine because it's the normal way. And I'm assuming that most schools will start to practice it in the next week or two anyway, give it coming up to the display. So she may be okay as it comes along, but if you're finding that teachers or the school are getting in touch to say that there is an issue and that she's upset, maybe you do need to kind of have a chat with somebody. So one of the programs we do is logosynthesis, and that helps to release that energy that is frozen, and that she can then begin to, I suppose essentially what it does is it reduces the anxiety levels that she has. It's a very simple technique. So, do drop me an email if you want to discuss that more. But for you, maybe it's about not kind of focusing on it all the time either, and building it up in your own head. Maybe for her long term, and not for the nativity, but for the long term, maybe you can have those conversations with her about those times where you felt nervous yourself, and what were the steps you did to overcome it. Because we will always be our children's biggest role model, no matter what they say. We'll be the ones that are going to have such a huge impact on their lives, and some parents can find that quite scary, but it's quite a powerful position to be in terms of, look, you can actually input on how she feels about things or how she views things. So maybe chat about past times where you or dad or granny or whoever overcame things, and talk about how it's okay to be nervous, but it's also good to challenge ourselves. And what we do is, as when our kids are small, is we pick them up and let them take 2 or 3 steps, and we don't just stop things. We don't just go, that's it, that's the end, you're never walking again because it's far too dangerous, you might hurt your butt. Like, we pick them up and let them go. So sometimes maybe it's okay for her to experience that nervousness and let her know that it's okay. But sit down with her, have a chat, see how that goes, and then don't put too much emphasis on it, and just see how things are. But do look at how you all as a family view perfectionism and making mistakes and getting things wrong, because it's important that we allow our kids to know that it's okay to make mistakes. We, especially in Ireland anyway, I know there is a culture of, if you make a mistake, don't bother doing it again, and that's not good. It's not healthy, because or I told you so. I told you shouldn't have tried that. I told you it wouldn't work out. So it's important that they see us allowing ourselves to make mistakes and try again, or try something different. So remember, our kids are more from what they see than what they hear. So live a life of it being okay to make mistakes in your home, and maybe that will help her. She is only 5, and just because she's this way now does not mean she's going to be like this forever. So what I say to parents a lot of the time is, you don't turn around to your 16-year-old and go, right, that's it, off you go to the naughty step for 16 minutes. It's just not going to happen. We can sometimes catastrophize when we look at our kids at different stages and go, geez, they're going to be like this forever. I remember thinking with my eldest daughter that, when she was a baby, she wouldn't drink water for probably only 6 or 8 weeks, maybe a couple of months. And I honestly thought, oh my God, she's never going to drink water. And like, when I look back now, it's crazy to think that. But I did because I was in it, and that's all I knew at the moment at that time. So it's important that we don't think that just because things are like this now, that they're going to be like this forever. Who knows? She may turn out to be extremely extroverted. Maybe she'll, go and become a dance teacher or a famous ballet dancer or whatever. Who knows? But try not to take too much in the way of where she might be in the future, or that this is going to be like this forever. And do get in touch if you do want to discuss the logosynthesis about how we can kind of try and reduce our anxiety levels in a very simple, easy way to do it. I suppose what I would say is we all know that it is, when it comes to our kids, we can be worried about things like that and the long-term impact. But generally, the majority of the population are going to be okay, and we're all going to have issues. Oh, that's a good cup of coffee. All right. Next one. My son, who is 10, and daughter, who is 8, generally get on quite well. But we've been finding that recently our daughter has been trying to get her brother in trouble, in inverted commas, by coming and telling us little tales that we either know ourselves or they're not that important for us to have to deal with. We know what she's doing and have tried speaking to her about it and let her know that it is not okay. Have you any suggestions on how to deal with it so we can nip it in the bud? Our son, for the most part, doesn't seem to that bothered, but when he is a bit stressed or tired, you can see it on him that it gets to him. And I suppose it's important that we do nip these little things in the bud, because they can start to expand and they can start to grow, or they can start to fester. And sometimes the youngest child can want to see the oldest get in trouble, because generally the youngest seems that, or feels like they've got the hard yards when it comes to being the child who gets in trouble the most. So it's important that you as the parent name it with them, make them aware of it, and look at the situation surrounding it. So is your child getting enough sleep? Are they eating? Are they tired when they're bringing this stuff up? Have they been in trouble themselves? And talk to them about what is that's causing them to do it. What is it? And that you might get, I don't know, or you might go, well, they didn't do X, or they did do X, and that's not okay. And I feel like if it was that was me, I'd be in trouble. But a lot of the time you might just get, I don't know, I'm just letting you know. And it's important that what we do is we say to them that it's not okay to try and get your sister or your brother in trouble, because what that does is then that puts their contentment and their happiness and what they seek validation from in what other people do or say. Now, some people might listen to this and go, Jesus, Alan, that's a bit of a wild kind of statement, but it's what happens. So, as adults, people buy magazines and newspapers that slag off celebrities and go, look at, Beyonce's cellulite, and, almost like that makes us feel better about ourselves. But then what that does is that puts our contentment with ourselves in the hands of what other people do or don't do. So we need to nip this in the bud as quickly as possible, so that your child isn't putting all their contentment and happiness in, and what makes them feel okay with themselves, in what other people do or what happens to other people. So look at what the boundary is. Name the boundary. Do not come with little tittle-tattles to us. Otherwise, you will get a consequence, because we know what's happening. If something big happens and you're concerned about your brother, then come and talk to us about it. But if it's a little tattletale, like, they left a glass in their bedroom, or, that they didn't make their bed, you don't need to worry about that. That's not your concern. We'll take care of that. We'll find out about it and we'll take care of it. You don't have to worry about it. It's not your concern. So all of a sudden you're giving them permission to let it go, that it's not something they need to be worried about, and that they don't start to look at, well, I'd get in trouble for it. Maybe as parents, you need to look at, well, is there an imbalance in how we treat our kids? And there might be, and there might not be. But, if they feel that way, say, look, we deal with you both as fairly as we can. And sometimes we get it right and sometimes we get it wrong. That's okay. And if we get it wrong, we'll hold our hands up and we'll apologise. But you are not your brother's parent. You don't need to worry about what he does or doesn't do. That's our job. And in order to stop you from getting in trouble, you need to look at yourself and your reasons for doing this, and then go that it's not okay to put what's going to make you feel better about yourself in what other people does. So it's a little bit tricky, and because it's nothing major, a lot of parents might go, do you know what, we'll just leave it. Just let it slide. Or some parents will go, thanks for letting me know, that's it, you get in here, you're in big trouble. But that just fosters it, and feeds it. So it's important that we don't get into that. So look at what the boundary is, name it, let them know they don't have responsibility for their brother and that they need to let it go. That's not their concern, and that you'll take care of it. And that in general, you will all find a way of working this out together. Okay. Hi, Rachel. I tell my daughter to feel the fear, embrace it, acknowledge it, and then step forward out of it. She's quite shy and introverted, but she is making great strides now she's in secondary school. I think every feeling is valid and important, even the negative ones. It's about learning who she is and learning to love everything that makes her unique. Really well put, Rachel, and I agree completely. I think that's, what you bring up is such an important thing. It's important that we let our kids acknowledge what is going on inside them. And we don't try to sugarcoat it or dismiss it and kind of go, so that 13-year-old breakup that we all had and we were devastated. Like, the last thing we need to hear is, you're only 13, you've been going out for 2 weeks. Get a grip, you don't know what love is. Maybe it's okay to go, it's all right, come here, let's hug it out. He wasn't good enough for you anyway. With anything in life, with anything that we all do, it's important that we get acknowledgement. So even if we're in work ourselves and, a colleague brings something minor to us, we could be sitting there going, Jesus Christ, there is so much more important things in the world to be worrying about than X. But if we say that to them, what it does is it makes them feel less than, and it diminishes what they're feeling. Whereas if we say, Jesus, I can understand why you're upset by that. That acknowledgement first is really, really essential. Because then what you can do is, what do you need to do about it? Or what can we do about it? And then you're getting them to start thinking about solutions, as opposed to making their feelings seem like they're not real, or that they're not fair, or that they're not okay. It's no different with our kids. So, Rachel, thank you very much. I wholeheartedly agree. Okay, last one for today. My daughter is in first year in school. Is this from you, Rachel? And has adapted really well to the new school. She's doing really well in most of her subjects, but we're beginning to see a bit of a pattern where, with subjects that she's not keen on or finds a bit more difficult, she is struggling to take in the information, which has resulted in her getting anxious about simple class tests. We understand the fact that she may not be bothered with some subjects, but the reality is she has to do them, and we don't want her getting behind in work, as this will only add to her stress levels. Have you any ideas on how we can manage this? We all have subjects in school that we find boring, that we find just mind-numbingly boring, and that's okay. But like this person says, just because we find it boring, unfortunately, with school, we can't just do all the subjects that we love, and we have to deal with it, and we have to put up with it, and we have to do it. So it is important that we don't allow our kids to just put it aside, forget about it because you don't like it, because it is only going to cause stress levels for them to increase. So what I would say is maybe sit down with them, look at how do they find that they learn best, and maybe that you all work together to try and encourage and foster some sort of way of dealing with it. I do have a multiple intelligences quiz that can help to I suppose build a learning structure for your child. So drop me an email and I'll send that to you, no problem at all. But what I will say is that look at what it is about the subject that they find boring, what do they struggle with, and you're absolutely right. You don't want your child getting behind now, so maybe put some extra time into the subjects that they're not that interested in. And it's clear that she's doing well in some other subjects, so it's okay to let her keep going with the subjects that she's interested in and study on her own with those subjects because she's doing okay in them, she enjoys them, maybe she finds them a bit more interesting. But maybe the focus needs to be on the ones that are a bit more difficult. So it's like anything. I remember going to the gym and there was a certain, I hated doing squats, I hated it, absolutely hated it. But I made myself do more and more and more and do it every single time until I got to a point where I was like, actually, I quite enjoy it, or it's not that bad, or the fear was gone. So it's important, going back pretty similar to our last question. It's okay to push on through, and Rachel, as you say, acknowledge it and keep moving forward with it. So it's all right to kind of say to them, right, we're going to put the focus on, it's a pain in the ass, and that's okay. But the more work you put in for this now, the easier it's going to be going forward. And it's going to take work from you. It's, you want your child in secondary school to be able to go off and study by themselves, but maybe they just need that extra little bit of help as well. So give it a go. Come back to me about the multiple intelligences if you want to explore it. That's us for this week. I hope you all have a fantastic week. Hopefully it'll brighten up here in Drogheda and the sun will come out. Let me see, have we anything coming up? We have no more courses coming up for 2018. The one-day courses are all done, pretty much. Actually, we do have a past literacy on dyslexia program. We've two coming up in Drogheda and Dublin, or Drogheda and Dundalk, but we're not quite sure of the dates. It's happening in November and December. We'll post the dates once we know more, and you can get in touch with me to see if we can secure you a place on that. It's for a parent and a child. If your child has dyslexia, it's a fantastic program that really, you see children coming in with their, self-belief and self-confidence down here, and they walk out after a few hours and they're up here because they've learned that they are visual learners and a different way for them to learn, and it works really, really effectively. So that's coming up probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks. So what I would say is do get in touch if you have a child who's got dyslexia and you want to explore the options, and if you're based in Drogheda and Dundalk, we can see if we can get you onto that course. If you want to do any of our parenting courses, we do have private sessions available which are run over 3 hours. They can be done face-to-face in our office in Drogheda, or they can be done via Skype. We offer them all the time, so drop me an email to info@helpme2parent, the number 2, helpme2parent.ie, and we'll sort that out. We probably have 3 or 4 slots available before Christmas, so we can get that done. So we have the parenting, we have the separation after separation or divorce course. We've got loads of courses. Go and check out our website. Have a wonderful week, folks. Take care. See you.